Welcome to another Study Skills webinar series. We talked about conferences, we talked about conference papers, we talked about call for papers and abstracts and draft conference papers and what we can do with those in the last webinar, and we're going to be talking about journal articles now. And following this webinar, we're going to be talking just a bit more about other forms of writing. The most important for most of you will be a thesis. So let's dip into it. Journal articles, for most people working in most disciplines, are the things that are going to build your academic credibility. Some disciplines still emphasize the role that monographs play, academic sole-authored academic monographs play, but for many disciplines, journals are now the places where your credibility is built. There are many types of journal articles, as I'll explain today, and as I argued yesterday, most of the book chapters that we read, most of the journal articles that we read first appeared as conference papers, and so in a sense, talking about conference papers needs to be talked about in the context of journal articles. These two are in many ways symbiotic. There are lots of less than best choices you can be making if you're wanting to get your ideas out, to establish your credibility, and I enjoy cartoons. Some of you may like social media and may share tweets, but tweets and Facebook postings are not the things that form your academic credibility, although they may play a part in calling people, an interested public, to your journal articles. It's a very difficult thing to begin to do, but like most things, the thought of doing something is often far worse than the reality. One of the main objectives in this webinar is to emphasize the importance of choosing a journal. Now, while most people are doing, during their undergraduate years, during maybe an honours year, while doing their masters, many people have maybe 5 to 10 journals that they read regularly, that they were given as compulsory reading by their lecturers, and that they are familiar with. And most people, when they begin to begin publishing journal articles, will choose the journals that they have read. Now, there is nothing necessarily wrong with doing that, but I think I wanted to make a couple of comments about the importance of choosing the right journal. Journals are indexed. There are some which are indexed. The basic index of credible academic journals is Scopus, and there's also ISI. ISI is usually got a higher level, a higher hit factor, more difficult to get into, a longer queue to get published in. And I'm wanting to demonstrate a website which I will be warmly recommending to you. It's SJR, and I'm opening the website now. So it's www.scimajojr.com. And what this does is this allows us to search for journals in the area that we are interested in. So I'm just searching linguistics, and you'll see that there are 106 journals tagged as linguistics. And as you open all of these journals, you'll be given information about its rating, you'll be told about its publisher, You'll be given stuff about its source. You'll be given information about how much traction it gets. And what you need to begin to do is you need to be going to the website of the journal, and every website is different, but most websites will have guidelines for authors, and this will give you information about how many words it needs to be, what citation system it uses, the referee system, and then most journals these days only use electronic submission on their website. So this is something that all of you need to be familiar with as publishing changes, as academic life changes. Don't necessarily go at the bottom of the, I was going to say the bottom of the heap, but you may want to try an entry-level journal, but try and submit something to something which is a bit higher, but don't start at the top. This is very, very unwise. Journal articles come in a number of forms. They can be sole authored, and they may be a review article. A review article is when you've got 2 or 3 newly published books, and you write an assessment of the strengths of these articles, these books. It may be co-authored, and this is very common when you're working with a supervisor who wants to get you started, that you'll conceptualize, outline an article, and share the writing tasks. Peer review process. You may have heard of this. This is the process where what you submit to a journal is sent to 1 or 2 blind reviewers who are specialists in the area, and they read and they give constructive criticism of the journal submission. They may say, listen, this is not of a good enough standard, it needs more work, and you may either be rejected outright or you may be told to rewrite and resubmit. If you're accepted, you're almost always going to have to do some revisions. So the peer review process is frightening for most people, and my encouragement to you is to sink, surface, swim, and to emphasize, to submit the best thing that you can, and then to submit it. And you may be surprised that you get editors who are happy to work with you to turn a good submission into a great submission, or for a bad submission that is rejected. After it has been rejected, you can sit down and you can go through the lists of things that they have said. Sometimes you don't know what editors want and what is and isn't credible unless you submit. This is the experience of many people, including myself. And so, I hope that you found this webinar on the writing on journal articles helpful. And in terms of credibility, we cannot look towards tweets and blogs, although tweets and blogs can point people to the things that we have written. It's important for you to choose a journal. I've recommended one website that can do that. There are others. Scopus is probably the bare minimum. If it's not indexed in Scopus, then you probably have to have good reasons for submitting to it. And the peer review process is frightening, but this is just a part of academic life. So thanks again for watching.
You'll see below that there's some links in the comments section, and the link will take you to some folders where I've collected some books that address some of the issues that I have raised here, about journal articles, about how to write them, about mistakes to avoid. You would have seen, you might have seen some of these links in previous webinars. For instance, the one on EndNote and My Mapping, you would have seen some stuff, and they will take you to folders where you can download individual books and articles, all of which are going to do in a far more thorough way what I've done over, 5, 10 or 15 minutes. So I hope you can take the time to follow those links. Thanks again.